we wanted to achieve from any review or uplift or refresh of that. And I touched on business outcome and client outcome,
Mhm.
and broadly I landed on three key focal points that I really wanted to hone in on. Client experience first and foremost,
Mhm.
enhancing that. Business efficiency, obviously, underpinning both of those or intertwined with them, sort of improve cybersecurity. So whatever we did, I wanted to sort of achieve improvement or enhancement in those three areas. Now, before we'd engaged, we were very much, I suppose, like a lot of traditional firms. You'd sort of use your X-Plan wizard, you'd get your output, you'd go through all your editing, and ultimately you'd end up with your 100 to 150 page SOA. The gripes and groans about that, certainly not new, so we won't go into those. But we never ever had pushback or client complaint, but it was something that we knew inherently we could do better. So we had started to shift to, using our presentation screens rather than sort of, handing them the 100-page document and sort of working through flipping pages. We were doing it via PDF, but it's still 150-page PDF, right? And there's a lot of noise in that. And, I think there's probably not too many advice firms out there that wouldn't have clients who've sort of sat there and sort of started to look fatigued at the end of one of those
Mhm.
meetings because, and they want to skip through all the noise and all the red tape and they want the nuts and bolts. So we'd taken a step forward and that was well received in and of itself. But you're 100% right. Once we sort of moved into the advice designer piece, which was, I think, the first sort of tech we ran at, mainly because of sort of the excitement through the advisor lens and what I kind of felt it could achieve for us in that client experience space straight up. And that was a real game changer.
Yeah, brilliant. Actually, just stepping back a bit, I do remember coming to meet you for the first time, and I love how methodical you are. You really had categorized and identified those swim lanes, I guess, where you really wanted to focus on and put a lot of detail into that thought before you even engaged us, which I guess probably helped us, just get the ball rolling really quickly because you really knew
Mm.
where you those areas that needed the focus. So even with Advice Designer, obviously, we love it. Spinura's product, simple to use, all those sorts of things. But that in and of itself was change management, right, for your team. You still had to get everybody on board. We still had to sort of get some beta testing going and get a few clients in there and tweak some bits and pieces and all of those sorts of things. How did the team, or how are the team going now with Advice Designer versus, where they first started?
Yeah, look, obviously, the more you use something, the sort of deeper you dive into it, the better you get at it, right? At the end of the day, that's the reality of, I think, most things in tech and in life, I think. If you sort of look at it and say, yep, that's really cool, but you tend back into what you've done, because maybe you're a little bit busy at a time and you know it, and you sort of don't want to step outside your comfort zone, that can get kicked down the road forever. There's never, I don't think, well, if you're a busy business, which, hopefully everyone is, you can always find an excuse. There's never
Yeah.
a perfect time. So, we had, as you know, we were looking at it sort of at the start of the year. We did the setup work, and I will say that was fantastic. Dipple and the team, really got in hands on, and assisted with that. So it was great. It wasn't just you're in the deep end, find your own way, which some providers can be. So that was fantastic in and of itself. But in terms of the team, I had advisors who'd seen particularly that digital SOA, which, as I mentioned before, it's a game changer. It's fantastic. Sort of the interactivity with clients, being able to scale projections and things like that real time with them in a meeting. It's fantastic. So I had them on the one side saying, let's go, we want this. The quicker we can get to that, the quicker we're away from this sort of cumbersome document. But then we had the back end. And as I've mentioned, we're a mixture of on and offshore. So we have
Mhm.
in-house paraplanning, but we also have outsourced paraplanning for overflow. Yeah, we had to get both sides of that equation across the functionality, how it works. There are some differences, but ultimately, they are positive. The outcome has really been fantastic. But yeah, like we had a real spike in kind of new business workflow at around that time. So at some point, you really need to rip the band-aid. There is one other element I'll add to that, which was a luxury for me in this firm, I suppose, and that goes to more broader tech implementation that we'll touch on, and that's having a kind of key person or a champion or a project owner. And I have an advisor who was in my in-house paraplanning team who's progressed into advice. And so he had that kind of excitement through the advisor lens, but also the experience in the actual plan preparation. And he was sort of ready and willing to take over and champion that internally and sort of drive the training piece forward, and that really helped.